What's up, nerd and nerdettes? Now that you're back, let's jump back into the part you guys have been waiting for with part 2 of Telekinesis. Just a quick reminder, remember to hit that like and subscribe button because it helps the channel, and your support makes me feel special. Not special enough to move things with my mind, but still special enough. Now, with the power of telekinesis comes the natural and stereotypical capability to be able to pull objects towards the user and or push objects away from the user with telekinetic push and pull. And you know what? Since you're using this to move things around, let's just go ahead and slap matter manipulation on that as well, as 99% of things that you're going to be moving at this level are going to be classified as, well, matter. But in order to actually detect what you plan on moving around, you're going to need a way to amplify what sensory skills you possess by having a telekinetic radar. This is more of a physical sensation kind of thing. So let's just go ahead and add enhanced senses as well. It can't hurt. The link for that is in the description as well. Well, now that you can locate objects and move them around, the next best thing, in my opinion, is being able to hold an object in place in order to keep it from moving, which will give you a greater level of control over said object via telekinetic binding. And you know what they say, a better grip on an object or being makes it pretty much easier to focus your power on attacking and defending with, or just exerting offensive control over whatever you telekineticized. That is not a word. With telekinetic attacks. The next step up from those simple applications is giving your telekinetic energy or force or power greater mass and solidity, and as an added bonus, durability with telekinetic solidification. From there, you can give the solidified force a definite shape, both simple and or complex, which allows you to create structures or objects or even beings with it via telekinetic constructs. If you don't want to create your own constructs and instead want to affect objects that you have an unnatural affinity towards, aka, control towards, then just use that connection and then call the object to your hand or by your side with telekinetic object calling. And if you want to do the same thing, but to multiple objects, then telekinetic simultaneous interaction, that's a mouthful, allows you to exert power and control with multiple objects at the same time and interact with them. And since you're controlling multiple things at once, if you want to save energy, I assume, then forgo making your TK denser and just telekinetically construct any object from previously existing objects with ambient resource construction. Let's just slap telekinetic ambient resource construction. That sounds a little better. Meanwhile, users at a higher level than the previously mentioned can show off how precise their pseudo-physical contact with matter is and use telekinesis to turn yourself or others invisible with telekinetic invisibility. Now, how would one find someone with that previous application? Well, since the invisibility comes from TK, then just no-sell anyone who uses any variation of this power against you with telekinesis negation. Or if you want to surround yourself with your own power and not other objects, you in turn can then amplify what powerful telekinetic fields you possess by infusing telekinesis into the energy that makes up your life force, which will then make you even more in touch with your telekinetic powers via telekinetic aura. And with your increased telekinetic strength literally making up your life energy, you can act like a discount gravity well and or event horizon and make objects or possibly energy itself orbit around the user or a user of this power with telekinetic orbital field. But with that increased strength also comes increased range, I guess? Well, in theory it should. So with remote telekinesis, the user is able to summon and manipulate matter that's not within the user's immediate surrounding. And by immediate, I mean right next to you. Users at the next level above that are much more precise with their matter moving, allowing way more versatility and finesse. So for instance, if you want to see the life drain from someone's eyes, but your skin crawls at the thought of actually touching them or getting up that close and personal, then use this power to strangle others without any physical contact via telekinetic choking. If the user wants to remind the target that they can always be reached no matter where they are or how far they hide, then find a way to mark your target and then cause any object you choose to automatically locate and then travel to that target or location at various speeds via telekinetic homing effect. This one's a nasty little ability if I say so myself. If the user wants to exert enough force to do all of the crushing, flattening, smushing, or just all around making a 3D object 2D, then they're gonna need telekinetic compression in order to accomplish that. Well, what if you try to compress a can of soda and splash some on you? Or your friend who's somehow allergic to soda? Who wrote this shit? Well, just use your pretty high-level telekinesis to wring yourself dry without damaging yourself while damaging others via telekinetic twisting. Now that you have all those applications as skills in your stat board, you nerdy nerds, you take those mentioned earlier and those before that and combine them into whatever combative capabilities you possess in perhaps one of the most distant and impersonal ways of laying a beat down on someone via telekinetic combat. Or you can just completely avoid the need to get sweaty and physical by causing your chosen target to experience a massive expenditure of pressure, which upon rapidly expanding, will then cause small ruptures to form and then grow into larger fractures in the object's structural integrity, which will then explode. You can just use your TK abilities to cause a target to explode. I don't know why he wrote all this. With telekinetic destruction. While the best of the best, those that have mastered this ability to its fullest, or those that can be called master level, can, with the appropriate level of knowledge, can conduct complex medical-based techniques through telekinetic means. This allows them to repair or destroy an organic target with their force-based operating table via telekinetic surgery. But if they're strong enough, then at this level, they can bypass the actual knowledge-based aspects of the previous power and regenerate one's own cells via TK manipulation with telekinetic regeneration. And since you're manipulating your own cells, aka DNA, with TK, then why not change the shape of that face you just got blown off in order to avoid further trouble by using telekinetic shape-shifting? Well, at this point, you're pretty much tripping on your own power, right? Right? Well, if you are, just like I think you are, then just show how above everything else you are, literally, by willing yourself or another object into the air so that you can look down on all who doubt you with telekinetic levitation. And while you're at it, if you just happen to prefer a bird's eye view, then use this power to push or pull yourself through the air under your own telekinetic power with telekinetic flight. And lastly, with this ability, location, distance, and time mean nothing to you, as you can move instantaneously to any spot you can imagine, been to, or other third phrase, without occupying the space in between and without making physical contact with whatever you choose to warp via telekinetic teleportation. And there you have it. Telekinesis in a nutshell. An extremely popular and versatile ability that can be used for any and everything you can imagine, as this power pretty much is the basis or stand-in power for many other unnamed powers. If the user moves something without touching it, it falls into this category. You just have to figure out what they're trying to do and how they're trying to do so. Oftentimes, it's just really that simple. But in order to add balance to your story, because it's a fictional concept unlike the elemental powers I've done, it still has its fair share of weaknesses. For one, the user may only be able to affect targets that they can physically perceive or that are within a certain range or distance from them. And even worse, they might not be able to affect objects above a certain momentum, speed. They might only be able to move targets they have an affinity for, like elemental telekinesis that I mentioned before, or an opponent with greater physical strength than the user's TK may break free from the control and might be immune to the power altogether. And because in the majority of the cases, this power comes from the mind, or at least, in the majority of cases, you might also carry psychological vulnerabilities, which means your abilities could be weakened or nullified or interrupted by stress, fear, distractions, disbelief in yourself, lack of confidence in yourself, and not enough willpower. That stuff. Or in the inverse, if you give in to out of control emotions, then the opposite could happen, where you could explode and cause unintentional damage. So of course, immense concentration is needed, even at lower tier levels of this ability. And like I stated before, since this power can be confused for psychokinesis, which is an exclusively mental power, stay tuned for that. Although it can come from the mind, the use of the ability may be channeled through the motion of other body parts like eyes, hands, or fingers even. Maybe even your toes. So as a result, the user might need to perform certain gestures or hand signs or even poses to utilize their abilities, such as putting your finger on your temple or something like that. Which could also mean that these abilities could be nullified if the user is unable to move, or the powers could be greatly reduced if the user isn't able to physically move their body. On top of that, using these powers could be physically or psychologically draining, or even crippling for the user because everything requires energy. With the results of that being, the stereotypical nosebleed, or they could even fall unconscious or enter a coma, or at worst, die from the stress put on their body from using their telekinetic powers. And last but certainly not least, the user's own strength, natural talents, and creativity will determine how far one goes with an ability like this. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. And now, with all that out of the way, it's time to place this ability on the scale. Telekinesis is like the perfect power that can lead to other powers or cover for those who aren't too concerned with being creative themselves. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, the Shey scaling system gives this power a 9.5. So very close to perfection. And if it wasn't for the fact that this power isn't consistently shown, because it has very different strengths and weaknesses depending on what type of telekinesis you're using, it would pretty much be the perfect power. And you know what, in some cases it is the perfect power because like I said before, this power leads to others, or other powers mimic the use of this power. So yeah,